AFR Talk.
You're listening to Focal Point with Brian Fisher.
Video segments of today's program will be posted at afr.net and on the Focal Point Facebook page. You'll also find the best collection of Brian's resources on our Facebook page. If you're on Twitter, you can be among the first every morning to find out what today's show will be about. Just follow Brian at Brian J. Fisher.
Hi, welcome back to this Wednesday edition of Focal Point on AFR Talk. 888-589-8840 is the number to call. You know, we've talked about some of these graduation speeches where we've had two occasions where one student had his mic cut off when he began to talk about his relationship with Christ. They cut the power, cut the mic, done, toast. Another student went off script, again, off of his prepared marks, off of his pre-approved remarks, to talk about the constitutional right to freedom of speech. So while he's in the middle of exercising his constitutional right to the freedom of speech, they cut off his speech, cut off his freedom of speech right in the middle. So, but here is a story, and you got to go to the Daily Mail online to get this over in the UK, about a student who had a prepared speech for graduation. He was a salutatorian. That means he finished second in his graduating class. And he decided to go off his pre-approved script and reveal to the student body that he was a homosexual. Now, let me ask this. Do you think that this was in Texas, do you think that his mic was cut off? Not a chance. He got to say everything that was on his little pea-picking heart about his own sexual preferences. Didn't have to worry about his freedom of speech being interfered with in the least. I want to get to this before we go any further. Jeff, if we could grab that audio bite. We've talked with you frequently about the way the IRS has harassed religious groups, the way the IRS has harassed the Billy Graham Association, James Dobson's Family Talk by obstructing their Dobson's application for C4 status, tax-exempt status, auditing the Billy Graham Association, auditing Samaritan's Purse. I mean, what they do is fill shoe boxes with gifts for needy children around the world. That's their crime, and they were audited by the IRS. And we know that they've gone after pro-life groups. We had that one story about the pro-life group in Iowa where the IRS agent was actually asking the head of this organization to tell the IRS what the content of the prayers were of the people that were praying outside Planned Parenthood clinics. How much of the time do you devote to prayer? How much of your resources do you devote to prayer groups? What are the content of your prayers? And this IRS staff member or whatever went to the point of saying, look, well, I'm not going to give you your tax-exempt status unless you promise me that you will never again pray in front of a Planned Parenthood clinic. So that's how bad things got. Now we've got another example of the IRS under the Obama administration going after a pro-life group. This is a pro-life group called Pro-Life Revolution. They operate in the state of Texas. There are three purposes for which religious groups can obtain nonprofit status, and this Pro-Life Revolution operates under all three of those purposes. So they qualify for nonprofit status no matter how you slice it because they're involved in all three of the purposes that qualify you for nonprofit status with the IRS. So they applied in January of 2011. They waited 4 months. They got a letter from the IRS saying they needed, quote, more information and an explanation of how their activities are educational or charitable, even though the IRS says you only need to operate on one or more of the three exempt purposes. So the other one they qualified for, so there was no need for the IRS, no reason for them to probe into this educational and charitable business. They qualified. Now, the president of Pro-Life Revolution is a woman by the name of Ania Joseph. She got a call. This is in March of 2011, so this is over a year now after they had applied. They applied in January of 2011. In March of 2012, That's like 13 months later, the president of Pro-Life Revolution, Ania Joseph, gets a phone call from a exempt organization specialist by the name of Sherry Wan. Now, the whole tape runs, I think, about 5 or 6 minutes. I just had Jeff grab one soundbite out of this to show you the oppression of the IRS, where basically this IRS agent was saying you are not allowed to do what your organization has designed to do, what you have been called to do. So we will start in this soundbite. You'll hear first from Ania Joseph, the president of this pro-life organization, asking for some, she's just explaining to the IRS agent, the Sherry One, that, look, my organization, we have to do what we're doing. Babies are being killed. We have a God-given responsibility and calling to reach out to these women. We're not strapping them down. We're not physically confronting them. We're not handcuffing them. We're just trying to reach out to them to persuade them to think about choosing life. Here's how the exchange went.
My religion says that we have to reach out to women who are hurting and who are considering killing their own babies.
You reach out to women. You can do that. You can, to educate the woman to do, you don't do that. However, you just kind of like say, you were the one woman, you fear the woman, okay? You have to give the woman opportunity to listen to you. You cannot force your religion or force you believe on somebody else.
So this is the IRS saying you reach out to the woman. You can't do that. To educate the woman, you don't do that. You can't, just like say, you cannot force your religion, as if handing somebody a pamphlet is forcing them to do anything, or praying for someone is forcing their beliefs on someone else. So the tyranny of the IRS obviously continues. Well, let's grab another phone call if we can before we go back to some content. By the way, under President Obama, the FBI, let's go to Ray if we can in Tampa, Florida. Before I bring Ray in, under the FBI, under President Obama, the FBI has sharply increased the use of the Patriot Act provision to collect U.S. citizens' records. This is from NBC News, Michael Isikoff. The FBI has dramatically increased its use of a controversial provision of the Patriot Act to secretly obtain a vast store of business records of U.S. citizens under President Barack Obama. According to recent Justice Department reports to Congress, the Bureau filed 212 requests for such data to a national security court last year, a 1,000% increase from the number of such requests 4 years earlier. Who was president 4 years earlier? Oh, yeah, that would be George Bush. So these requests to secretly collect information, 1,000% elevated under President Obama. There's no wonder that Politico said, look, this is the biggest expanse of government surveillance we've ever seen. Well, let's go to Ray, Tampa, Florida. Ray, welcome to Focal Point. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian. God bless you, man.
God bless you.
Keep up the good work.
We'll try to do that. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, listen. I don't mean to get off track here, but it's got to do with the the Fourth Amendment thing here. I was watching Charlie Rose last night, and he had a panel of people, a former NSA director, in fact, and he kept harping on the 21st century. We're in the 21st century, and we've got to do things differently than we did before. But the funny thing was, of course, they not everybody trashed the whistleblower. There were some people there that were, they saw that as his right to do that, and it wasn't a bad thing. But the Fourth Amendment was never even mentioned once by anybody. It just goes to show ignorance.
Yeah. Well, and see, that's really, to me, Ray, and I think you agree with me on this, that's what this issue is all about. What this issue is all about is the Constitution. What this issue is all about is the Fourth Amendment. What this issue is all about is that the Obama administration is getting these general warrants that allow them to go out and collect all this data on unsuspecting American citizens. They don't have a specific warrant. And the whole point of the Fourth Amendment is government cannot do that. So I think for you and me, Ray, this is about the Constitution. And yet there is so little interest in that or value placed on that, at least in the mainstream media, that and what you saw last night didn't even come up, didn't even talk about it.
No, that's right.
All right. Well, listen, I appreciate the call. Thank you for that. I appreciate that, Ray. Let's grab clip number 6, if we can, Rob, before we go into the break, and I'll do a couple immigration sound bites after. This is a story on NBC, and I have had this story in the stack for a couple of days, and I just haven't had time to get to it, but it has to do with a burgeoning scandal in the State Department, and we'll just let NBC kind of give you the information here. This is a story that they are following about a cover-up that's traced directly to Hillary Clinton. Let's listen.
Serious allegations this morning facing the State Department.
That's right. According to internal State Department memos, the agency might have called off or intervened in investigation into possibly illegal and inappropriate behavior within its ranks, allegedly to protect jobs and avoid scandals. This concerns the time that Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. We want to get right to NBC's chief White House correspondent, Chuck Todd, with the latest. Chuck, good morning to you.
Good morning, Savannah. You know, there's an old saying in Washington that the cover-up is worse than the crime. But in this case, both parts of it are disturbing. Allegations of prostitution and pedophilia, and allegations that those crimes were somehow covered up or not looked into. So the State Department this morning is having to respond to those claims and those investigations of misconduct by State Department officials, including by an ambassador and security agents attached to then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. And the allegations are that these investigations were whitewashed, quashed altogether, and that those orders came from high up.
Let's grab Rob. Let's grab clip number 2 or clip number 7. Let's play that right away. Let's listen.
NBC News has obtained documents related to ongoing investigations into some disturbing allegations involving State Department personnel and at least one ambassador. A State Department memo says the ambassador, quote, routinely ditched his protective security detail in order to solicit sexual favors from both prostitutes and minor children. The memo also says a top State Department official directed department investigators to, quote, cease the investigation into the ambassador's conduct. It's just one of what another document describes as, quote, several examples of undue influence from top state officials. On Monday, a State Department spokesperson would not confirm specific investigations.
So that's NBC. CBS broke this story yesterday. They uncovered documents that the State Department may have covered up allegations of illegal and inappropriate behavior. Goes right to the top to Hillary Clinton. Back, stay with us.
When people get up and